Hey everyone, Kyle Mike here from MLive.com. Joined as always by Justin Rogers. Bear with us a little bit today. I was hit by a truck today. That's not a euphemism. I was hit by a car on my bike. It's been an eventful day, Justin, but still cranking out the material as always. I know today you talked to Ryan-Broyles, I talked to Andrew-Peacock. We've watched the receivers throughout training camp a little bit. There's a big battle between Tate and Johnson and Golden Tate. What are your early impressions of some of the guys you've seen that are competing for those reserve spots and the third spot behind those two guys?
I'm not even going to talk about either one of those guys. Corey Fuller is the guy that's really caught my eye this camp. I think we were kind of the same mindset that Calvin and Golden Tate were really the only locks from that receiver group coming in. Some had better shots than others, and Fuller certainly fell into that discussion, but he has just looked so much more comfortable, confident in this camp. I think he's running great routes. He's making tough contested catches, but there's other times where he's getting significant separation. Haven't seen him do a lot of deep ball work, which I know was his expected calling card over the last couple of years, but he's doing a lot more work in that short to intermediate range, and if he can do that, he's going to be a more complete receiver and offer the offense more, I think, than just being a single styled option.
Corey Fuller has looked good enough to me to not even be in the conversation for a bubble guy at this point. Yep. That's why I don't even bring him up. I think the combination of his size, his speed, what he's done in the past, and how he's looked this year, he's safe. I mean, barring something extraordinary, I think he's safe on this team. He gives them some size and some speed that the other guys don't really provide as a deep threat. I know he didn't catch a ton of balls deep, but that is a facet of his game that guys like Broyles or whoever else, Lance Moore, they don't have. I do think Lance Moore makes it as well, at least at this point. Jeremy Ross will kind of depend, I think, on special teams and his contributions there. I think if he wins the return jobs, he'll be in the fold as a receiver, and I think if he loses the return jobs, then he probably doesn't offer enough solely as a receiver to make it. For me, when it comes down to those last spots, it's Ryan-Broyles, it's TJ Jones, it's perhaps Andrew-Peacock, as I alluded to before. He's a guy that we've seen develop considerably since last year. I think he's still unlikely. I think Broyles is ahead of him, but he's just a guy who's caught my eye during training camp because he's made quite a few plays as he has. And I talked to him after camp today, and he said one thing he's focused quite a bit on has been yak. He sees what it's done for Golden Tate. He sees the way Tate moves and how he can turn a 10-yard pass into a 70-yard touchdown, and that's something that he's tried to work into his game. He's really gone after Tate and really asked him about how he's so successful, how he can replicate it. He's watched a ton of film on different guys, including Tate. Watched a lot of film with Calvin, and a young guy who could make the team at that last spot. And if he doesn't, I think Ryan-Broyles has a chance as well. I know you talked to him today. Where's he at right now in his development, his mindset?
Yeah, I just posted my camp notes. I thought Broyles had one of the more interesting days of practice. He's had a good camp. He's not nearly as buried on the depth chart as he was last year. It just felt like he was working with the bottom guys on the roster last year. He's doing more second team, a little bit of first team work this offseason. A lot of short area work for him. Today he got knocked on his butt by rookie Isaiah Johnson. I don't think he was expecting it at all, and kind of stayed on the ground stunned. And the defenders on the sideline taunted Broyles, get up, what are you laying down for? And Broyles kind of flipped a switch. This is a guy that is a super nice guy off the field and kind of I don't want to say soft, but he's not a physical guy on the field. He laid out Josh Wilson and Quandre Diggs on separate plays with blocks, and kind of stood over Josh Wilson like no chest pounding, but one step short. And it was just a different edge to Broyles that I've seen. I found it very interesting. He knows what he's up against. He's trying to shed perceptions that he's limited what he can do on this roster. He's trying to make this roster. He's always got to prove himself, even though he's a second-round pick. And today was an interesting step toward doing that in I guess, a way that maybe we wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, we highlighted him quite a bit during OTAs and minicamp. In general, I think he's had a strong offseason, and I think that's indicative just of his health. And it's to the point now where it's not just, he's healthy enough to practice. It's that he's been healthy enough to practice for almost a year straight now, which allows him a chance to work on his football, to work on his speed, to actually improve, as opposed to just maintaining the health. And yeah, he's looked more explosive, I think, than he has in the past couple of years. And we see him working more on special teams. We see him working as a return man. And we've seen him be pretty active, even on the first and second teams here and there. On the offense, I think that bodes well, because last year, as you alluded to, I remember in Buffalo, like, we had seen him throughout the preseason. He was the leading receiver, and we're thinking, well, this guy's probably safe. It gets down to the Buffalo game, the final preseason game. It's the fourth quarter of the final preseason game in a blowout. The very definition of meaningless football. You've got guys out there who are going to be selling insurance in 2 months, and Ryan-Broyles is still out there playing football. Like, he was just buried last year. I don't necessarily see that as the case now. I think he's done enough to improve his stock, but certainly he has a lot of work to do, I think, to make the team.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I completely forgot about it because it was so early in the practice, but they were doing some kickoff return work, and Broyles was actually working on blocking. It was more about the coverage units coming down, and he had a nice block there too. And like, the special teams coach pulled him aside and, like, gave him like a great block, kid, like. It's just, that's not something we think of Ryan-Broyles as a blocking receiver. I did mention the injury stuff to him, just having the full year to kind of recover.
I'm sure you appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. It just got like a eye roll. I don't want to talk about it. And whatever, it is what it is. He did have 3 major leg, knee injuries that he's recovered from, and I think last year was beneficial for him to be away from the game and to really get fully healthy, but he obviously doesn't want to talk about that.
I asked Jim Caldwell after practice today if there's been any kind of movement or if he has any kind of reaction to the competition behind Tate and Calvin, and he gave the most general answer you could possibly give. So I think it's a battle that's wide open at this point and will remain wide open for a couple of weeks to come. We'll be back at practice on Friday, 3 p.m. or 3:30 tomorrow afternoon here in Allen Park. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.